All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of The Grip Show. So, as many of you probably know, my personal Instagram account is not up anymore, and the Grip Show account is not up anymore. So, that's making it a little bit tougher for certain people to reach out to me or get a hold of me. So, just real quick, if anybody would like to reach out to me or get a hold of me, just go ahead and email thegripshowofficial@gmail.com, and you can reach out to me that way for now, or if you got a question or whatever it may be. So yeah, just kind of putting that out there. If anybody needs to reach me, that's probably one of the best ways right now. Aside from that, just want to reassure everybody that despite a couple accounts going down on Instagram or something like that, nothing is happening with the Grip Show. Grip Show's not going away. If anything, the pace is just going to pick up. The videos are going to get better, and I'm going to be able to focus on it more now that I'm not distracted as much by some of the stuff on Instagram. So, moving forward, just want to say thank everybody for supporting the show. Thank everybody for tuning in. And yeah, we're going to cover up some North American rankings now. So, with these updated North American rankings, it's going to be similar to past things. Two of the bigger competitions that really picked up since the last rankings episode was out would be King Kong and the Olympia. Those are probably the two biggest competitions. There were a couple of regional competitions, which was the Northeastern Regional Championships took place, hosted by Vince Broderick, and then Will Reed hosted the Pacific Regional Championships. So I do plan on having recaps for those events coming out in the near future, as well as some other things regarding regional championships. So be on the lookout for, not just this video, but, if this is out, just know that more videos are on the way, and I will be covering a lot of information and putting out some new stuff to close the year out really strong. But yeah, Olympia and King Kong, probably the two biggest premier competitions to kind of close the year out. The only other competition that's really going to be happening to close the year would be Napalm Nightmare World Championships. That's a multi-venue competition, so there's a lot of venues to do, a lot of ways to sign up, a lot of points of contact to get a hold of if you're interested in competing in that. But for the most part, a lot of these rankings won't really be switching up until maybe the earlier part of next year. So jumping right in, I'm going to start with the men's overall. So for the men's overall, we have Carl Meyersko still in the first place spot, and I think that's 100%. I don't know, just an agreeable, take. So Carl did have some injuries and some things this year. He, I believe, last competed Shaw Classic. So him and Tanner Merkel had a really exciting competition where for the invite only for the pro invite for the Shaw Classic, they had like a axle rep out and a grandfather clock or hilt kind of rep out type deal. And Tanner did take the rep out on the axle, but kind of fell a little bit short against Carl on the vertical lift. But yeah, Carl is still one of the most well-rounded athletes we have in the sport, and continues to kind of move the bar forward for a lot of just records or feats of strength in general. So yeah, Carl definitely well-deserving of that first-ranked spot. And just wanted to mention the Shaw Classic, where him and Tanner, most recently competed against each other. In the second slot, we have Tanner Merkel out of Texas, and I just had Tanner. I say just had, but about 2 months ago, I had Tanner on the Grip Show. So if anybody is interested to hear about Tanner's Shaw Classic experience, hear about Tanner's introduction to the sport, maybe ways that he trains or how he approaches it, or just hear some of his ideas in general about grip sport, yeah, check out that interview. It's a full-length interview, probably an hour and a half long or so, and should be a good watch if anybody's familiar with Tanner and some of the stuff he's done over the years. There's not a ton of interviews with Tanner, so, make sure if you, I don't want to say are a Tanner Merkel fan, but yeah, if you're friends with Tanner, if you like Tanner, if you've, newer to the sport and haven't had a chance to compete with him or know that much about him, check that out, and yeah, just support the show, but also, find out more about the people within the sport. Tanner this year had I think 3 competitions. He might have done a 4th, but I know 3 for sure. Starting from the World's Strongest Grip in California to the there was another competition he did in Texas. It might even not have been this year. It might have been the year before. But yeah, I think it was in December of 2024. So he did that. He did the one in January, and then he did come back in for the Shaw Classic and pulled a win over Carl. So yeah, really good year for Tanner. And like I said, I had him on the show, so check that interview out. But I think not too long after the interview, Tanner posted a thing where he had an injury. So I think he popped a finger pulley or tore a finger pulley, something of that nature. So yeah, just even though there's not a ton of injuries that happen in the sport, when some of these higher level guys are pushing themselves and doing what they do, injuries happen. It's kind of, we all try our best to avoid it, but sometimes it just can't be avoided. So wishing a speedy recovery to Tanner Merkel. Finger pulleys and stuff like that, it's huge for grip sport, huge for climbing. So hope Tanner bounces back from that injury and can get back to maybe climbing more or, doing more grip. Whatever he wants to do, just hope he gets healthy. So Tanner Merkel in the number 2 spot. For number 3, we have Jason Dingy out of Ohio. And Jason had a really solid year this year. So he won the Masters for King Kong. He won the North American Championship, which was held in 2024. He then won the 2025 Nationals for GSI. And he won the Regionals, which was the Eastern Ohio Grip Challenge. So Jason Dingy joined Sarah Chapello in the first people. With this being the first year Regionals was really held this organized. Jason and Sarah Chapello are the first people to win their regional championship while having the national title and being the current North American world champions. So, shout out to both of them for staying well-rounded, competing so often, and being able to pull off those big wins. So to stay with Jason on this one, he, national champ, North American champ, regional champ, top 5 finish in King Kong, and won the Masters in King Kong. So Jason had a really solid year and just proved why he's always right up there with the best of the best. Going down to the 4th place, we have Ben Helms. Ben Helms has been a little inactive. He did tear a bicep though, and kind of switched up how he was training and had to kind of do some things to work around that and rehab himself. So also wishing Ben a speedy recovery. And despite him being a little inactive, due to injuries and other things, his grippers continue to be very strong. I did speak to him, and he did mention that he wants to get back into kind of doing some feats and just having a little bit more fun with training. So we might see him fall off this list due to inactivity, but as far as I know, it's not like he's retiring or giving up or, completely done training. The guy's been training his whole life. Whether he competes or not, he's going to be, chasing the grippers, chasing the feats, still just keeping in good shape. That way, if he ever wanted to make a return at any point in time, he could come back in and be right there at the top level. So, Ben, hope you heal up and, just keep pushing and having fun in the stuff that you want to do. And when the time is right, come back to competing. In 5th place for the men's overall, out of Idaho, we have Blake Taylor. Blake Taylor is somebody that I think kind of popped on everyone's radar at the Olympia this year. So he was out in Vegas for the Olympia. And I don't know height and weight, but I do know that Blake is a big dude. So real big, real strong. And for someone that's just starting out, that strength base and everything he's already done, right out the gate, was lifting awesome. So he took 2nd at the Olympia, and you're saying, man, how is he getting, how is he in the top 5 for the men's overall? And he, only got 2nd in his weight class at the Olympia. He had Ross Boyle from the UK in his weight class, and Ross Boyle was this year's overall King Kong winner, and Ross took the gold at the Olympia. So not only is that an international lifter that won't be included in the North American rankings, but Ross is one of the biggest rising stars and one of the strongest people in the world right now. So for Blake to show up and take runner-up to Ross in his essentially probably first grip competition, there's no shame in that. And that's just a testament to how strong some of these people are and how strong some of the upcoming prospects are right out the gate. So Blake not only took second to Ross in the Olympia on that format, he jumped right in for King Kong and had a top 20 performance. And if anybody doesn't know, for the males, there was 295 people in the men's division. So getting the top 20, I mean, he's really in like that, easily within the top 10%, but also within probably the top 7 or 8% in the world for that format. And sometimes bigger guys, stronger people that are naturally good on thick bar, they may not translate as well to the freestyle hub or, like the thumb blaster, things that were contested this year, because those King Kong lineups do shift a little bit. But from the bigger, axle lift, Saxon lifts at the Olympia or rolling handle lifts to the single hand King Kong format across different things, Blake has pretty much showed that right out the gate, he is a force, he's competitive, and he's in an area where I'm not sure who he's closer to, but being in Idaho, you have, Tammy McClure, Amy Waddles out there. Also, you have the Washington crew with like Andy Muncie, Ashley Muncie, Derek Hudson. So there's a lot of strong grip people out there in the Pacific Northwest, where you're looking at Washington, Oregon, Idaho. That is a very strong region that, with the addition of Blake Taylor, it's only going to get better. Moving down to 6th, we have Jed Johnson out of Pennsylvania. And Jed's had a very active year. And like I said, I don't want to have Jed's head get too big. But it still kind of amazes me that from the feats in the early years to competition lifts, Jed has just been one of the most well-rounded grip competitors. And essentially, since he started the sport, granted, there's less people in the earlier days. Now, as the sport's grown for basically 2 decades, Jed has never really found himself outside the men's overall top 10. So he's one of the only people, or probably the only person, who's been on this list, been in the top 10 in this sport in the world since it began. So that is a huge statement. And the fact that Jed has traveled all the way to Minnesota, all the way out to Sleepy Hollow, New York for the feet meet a second year, I just have to hand it to Jed for still doing cross-country trips, still going into battle with some of these new up-and-comers that are just gunning for the big names and guys at the top, and they're stronger than ever. And Jed is still put it on the line, put in the miles, traveled to other people's hometowns, other people's home gyms. And I should mention he went up to Vermont for the Northeastern Regionals too. He won that. Had a very close battle with the Mustache Ninja. I believe it's Lucio Batista. Hopefully I say that name correctly. If not, I'm just going to refer to him as Mustache Ninja. But another big prospect that we'll get into within the weight classes. But yeah, Jed and him had a very good battle for the regional championship, with Jed coming out on top. But to go up there, all the way up to Vermont, all the way out to Minnesota, all the way out to New York, plus the stuff he's hosting himself, Jed stayed active. Jed put it on the line. And even when he's not 100%, he's still showing up 20 years after the fact and, solidifying his legacy, or solidifying, that he's always been one of those guys for this sport that is at the top. Jed ended up taking second at the Minnesota competition. That was to Eric Roussane, but they actually tied and had to have a tiebreaker. So a tough one there. Jed took first at the Feet Meet Invitational, which, had everything from steel bending to anvil medley to blob and inch dumbbell lifts. So it's just grippers, Mash Monster grippers. It was a very great contest ran by Alex Gia. And Jed took first there, and then first in the regionals. And as always, Jed's right there at the top for, King Kong or any other competition he decides to do. So definitely want to give Jed his credit for his performance this year, but also the past 20 years that he's been doing it as well. 7th place out of New York, Sal Sabatino. Sal is a lifter that I'm not going to say I warned everybody about, but yeah, after meeting him at the Feet Meet Invitational, he took second, I took third, but he was right behind Jed. They had a very close match. I think with more experience, Sal could have won that competition, but that's part of the game is, gathering that experience, and Sal's been doing that. So with Sal really only maybe lacking some experience or just needing a little more time, the strength is there, the body size, the hand size. Sal is a nightmare for anybody in the sport. I'm just telling you right now. He's so strong and so well-rounded that you're not going to hear this guy complain about two-handed heavy lifts on the body because his body is ridiculously strong. You're not going to hear him complain or bitch about hand size because his hands are huge. Like, he's a guy that's not going to be making any excuses, and he's only going to be getting better. So from Sal winning Maryland's Strongest Hands to being the runner-up to Alexei Tukalov at the Olympia, taking second to Jed at the feet meet, Sal is in the mix. Sal's on everybody's radar now, so just prepare to see big things out of him. 8th, we have Devin Lee Brown. No stranger, once again. I mean, Devin Lee's been doing this not quite a decade, I don't believe, but not too far from it. As we approach 2026, Devin Lee's been kind of lingering around the sport since probably about 2018. So he's been in the sport a good, 6-7 years at least, I would say. And really turned it up the last 2 years, especially. So just some highlights for Devin Lee, apart from, winning his weight class at the GSI. Well, aside from winning the Arnold arm lifting competition, first place, and setting some records, winning the 93 kilo class for Grip Sport Nationals, he took 7th overall for King Kong. So a top 10 finish in King Kong, being a 93 kilo lifter. Very impressive. He also had 2 top 5 lifts, and one of those lifts being the top Little Bighorn lift for the competition. And he was very close to breaking the all-time world record on that. And just within a couple pounds of it. So Devin Lee, well-rounded on the thick bar, has brought his pinch up a lot. And the vertical lifts are still there for him. That's not changing. So he's knocking on the door for some more records, and hopefully he will stick with it, and we can see him be active in the next year because, he's just one of the most exciting lifters to watch, and kind of keeps a low profile, but he doesn't have to speak a lot. The lifts speak for him. Eric Roussane in 9th out of Ontario. So Eric took first in his weight class at the Olympia, 12th overall in King Kong. Now, I know, it seems like I said, 12th, it doesn't seem like a noteworthy finish to people that maybe aren't aware of King Kong, but when you realize there was almost 300 male competitors and he's right there knocking on the top 10 as a 105 or a 93 kg lifter, that's a huge statement by Eric. So once again, another person that's been in the sport a very long time with a tremendous amount of consistency, Eric Roussane. He also was regional champ this year. So, won his regional championship. He was right there, second or third for the national championship in Canada. And, nearly cracking into the top 10 for the overall in King Kong. And first at the Olympia, second at the Arnold. I could go on. But yeah, Eric is active on both sides of competition. Also knocked off some feats off of his lifetime list, lifting the Fat Man and some other stuff. So I sold him the Fat Man, so I got to give him credit for lifting that. And Eric is continuing to evolve his training and just still remains probably the most active competitor on the bigger stages and bigger competitions with the most quality performances. So no surprise to see Eric still in the top 10. 10th for the men's overall, Luke Raymond out of Pennsylvania. So, another person who just had another top 20 King Kong finish and was right behind Devin Lee Brown for the second biggest Little Bighorn lift this year in King Kong. And Luke actually had a lift this year that, missed the crossbar by about that much. It was like less than an inch, a fraction of an inch. And the knock bar just slightly was short. But that would have been a world record had he landed that lift. So from Luke's pinch, especially a single hand pinch, is almost unmatched any weight class. Luke's Little Bighorn and vertical lifts, some of the best we've ever seen and probably some of the best we ever will see in the sport. With his thick bar still being maybe slightly under his other lifts, but the second you start doubting Luke on thick bar, he keeps increasing those lifts as well. So Luke is somebody that any format, any time, any medley, no matter what it is, when Luke shows up, he places well, and if he doesn't win, he's pushing whoever's at the top to their limit. So that rounds up the men's overall top 10. yeah, if you guys have any comments or anything you'd like to drop below, yeah, let us know your thoughts about the top 10 for the men's overall. Now I'm going to branch into the women's overall. So Sarah Chapelleau, no surprise there, lifting out of Colorado. And had a perfect score for King Kong, clean sweep, all 4 events, first place. Won the Olympia. I don't think was really even pushed too hard in the Olympia, was kind of just taking token lifts and just, I don't say doing just enough to win, but, wasn't risking injury, wasn't, redlining and going crazy, but just, there competing, lifting. And that happens sometimes when, somebody does, I don't know, close to double-digit competitions in a year or 5 or 6 competitions in a year. It seems like every other month you're competing. And, it's hard to redline or go for broke or give it your best every single time when you're competing that often. Particularly battling a move or, different injuries or just wear and tear over time. So, yeah, Sarah had another, solid Olympia performance, won another King Kong, and still is right there for some of the best lifts. And in any implement she touches, it's either a record or she's right there probably in the top 3 or 4 on everything she touches. So until somebody can kind of, competitively prove that they have Sarah's number, she's going to stay at that top spot for a while. Second place, no surprise, Tammy McClure out of Idaho. Won the pound for pound for King Kong this year, which is kind of an equation, and Eric does that to sort of show based on body weight. We have lifters from the lightest weight classes all the way up to super heavies, and it's nice to kind of recognize people within the sport based on maybe size comparison. So Tammy won the pound for pound, but she was still 4th overall. 4th overall in King Kong for the women's, and oftentimes she's been 2nd and runner-up for King Kong. So I don't know how many Gorilla trophies she has from the King Kong competition she's done in the last 3 or 4 years, but it's probably a lot more than most people. I think Tammy would have fared really well at the Olympia, but I think there was some travel arrangements or something that got mixed up for that. So look for her to return next year, and just be active and right there in the mix with everybody. So Sarah Chapelleau in the first place spot for women's overall, and Tammy McClure in the second place. Third place will be a newer lifter, Ebony Perez out of California. So there's not a lot of video or social media stuff with Ebony Perez, but the handful of competitions she's done so far are phenomenal performances. She's seriously strong, whether it be thick bar, pinch, 2-hand, single hand. So far, everything she's done has been very impressive, and we're hoping to see a lot more from her. She won the Pacific Regional Championship hosted by Will Reed, and I guarantee she set some weight class records and possibly some women's overall records on the implement she was contesting. She did her first trip to the Olympia and took first place there, and not sure, like I said, what the rest of the year will hold or what the next competition she may do is, but for what it's worth and what she's done this year, a very exciting prospect has now burst on the scene, and that's somebody that can really challenge everybody within this top 10 and even this top 5 especially. Ebony Perez in the third place spot. Fourth place is Amy Waddles out of Idaho. I think she's been a little more inactive the second half of this year. I know she was, I believe last time I did a rankings episode, I think I mentioned she was probably trying to certify on the Captains of Crush 2.5. I'm not fully sure if she's still pursuing that or what her training's looking like. But yeah, wish her the best in her training. I wish her the best for any competition she has coming up. I will add that the last year, she was the women's overall winner for the Napalm Nightmare World Championships. And at the beginning of this episode, I mentioned that, that's the last competition of the year. So it would not surprise me to see Tammy and Amy team up and possibly do the Napalm Nightmare World Championship. And Amy fares very well in those events, very strong at those. So maybe she's been a little inactive and focusing on other stuff, but at any point in time, she could pop right back up with this Napalm Nightmare World Championship and, maybe bump some lifts up or, take back some records that she used to hold. So, or raise records she already holds and push them up higher. I'd have to look at the database. But so Amy in fourth. Another California. So we have 2 Idaho and 2 California lifters here at the top 5. So yeah, for the women overall, the West Coast is killing it. And they're going to continue to kill it here because, yeah, I'm not too many people on the East or outside. But, yeah, Helen Wynn. And she was the former GSI national champion in 2024. And for this year, she was the Pacific Regional runner-up. And the only reason she's the runner-up is because Ebony Perez is so strong. And they had a close battle. So Helen and Ebony are both, really... you can't really say that, like, Helen's a prospect because she's already proved herself. Ebony's like a new prospect, but she's proved herself. So I just hope to see more out of Ebony and Helen as they continue to compete more often and get stronger and get more experience. So yeah, it's an incredible top 5, and the 6 through 10 is really a great list too that I'm going to get to. So the other thing I will mention for Helen is, despite kind of solidifying herself in these women's divisions and performing very well, she's only 24 years old. So, I mean, this is another lifter that has time on her side. So if she stays with this, improves her training, continues to evolve, she's only 24 years old. I mean, the sky's the limit, really. So look forward to seeing what she does coming up. 6th place out of Oregon, Heather McDowell. She won the women's 100 kg King Kong. So she won her weight class in King Kong. You'll see Heather's name pop up often. Last year's Napalm Nightmare World Championships, other events. But yeah, she's out there in Oregon, and really anytime she's lifting, maybe she doesn't beat Sarah Chaplin, maybe she doesn't beat Tammy or whoever, however these things stack up, but whatever class she's in, she's either winning the weight class or she's right up in there with some of the best lifters in the sport. So Heather's a very solid competitor, and it'll be interesting to see if some of those West Coast venues have a Napalm Nightmare Championship this year, and should they host, it'll be interesting to see how many of these lifters in the top 10 for the women's will take part in it. From there, we go to 7th, and really, I'm going to go through 7, 8, 9, and 10. So we have 7th place, Jaquise Robertson out of Michigan. 8th, Hafsa Mason, California, once again. 9th, Haley Gao out of New York. And for that 7, 8, 9, I don't believe the 7th, 8th, or 9th, I don't think Jaquise, Hafsa, or Haley have competed since I did the last video. Within grip sport, I don't think they've competed. I have still seen them training, lifting heavy, maybe even competing in other sports, whether that be Highland Games, strongman type stuff. So while they are, maybe not doing big grip competitions to close this last part of the year out or this last quarter, they're actively training, improving, and testing themselves in other avenues. So, it's wild to me that someone like Jaquise, Hafsa, and Haley would even be in the bottom half of the top 10, because they're kind of rock star lifters in their own right when it comes to these women's divisions. And I just look forward to seeing what they're going to do coming up. And then 10th, Shelby Janes out of Alberta in Canada. And she's the regional champion this year. And I could maybe try to look in to see what other stuff she's done, but I definitely know that she did that competition and was the regional champ. So that would round out the top 10 there, with Jaquise Robertson 7th, 8th place Hafsa Mason, 9th Haley Gao, and 10th Shelby Janes out of Alberta. So that is your women's top 10. And once again, go ahead and comment below, leave anything you want, and if you feel like somebody got overlooked, left out, comment, bring up a discussion, let's talk about it, just share opinions. I always like kind of having discussions like that. Now I'm going to start getting into women's weight class. So that's kind of covered our big, overall men's, overall women's. Now we're going to kind of get a little more layered with some of the women's weight classes. So for this, we have the 63 kg. Tammy McClure definitely cut some weight this year for certain competitions, had a lower body weight this year than probably any of the past years she's competed in grip. And some of that was to perform certain goals, body weight goals. And she, despite losing some body weight or cutting certain weight for competitions, did not seem to impact her performance negatively whatsoever. Still seems stronger than ever and doing her thing. So Tammy McClure, 1st place. 2nd out of Minnesota, Kyra Condi. believe she's an Olympic climber, has a pretty big following from climbing, and very competitive, very high level, one of the best at what she does. Hopefully she will stick with competition, seeking out more competitions, or should she have a little bit of a break from the main priorities that she's doing, maybe she can kind of, dip back in on the grip side of things and hit at least a couple competitions and stay within the rankings and kind of stay involved in the sport. Because anytime we get world-class athletes from other avenues, not only do they bring their experience and their prestige to the sport, they're bringing other people, and they kind of become a doorway for other high-level people to find our sport and participate. So it's always a good thing when you get interest from accomplished athletes at that high level. Third is Corinne Lalonde out of Ontario, goes by Coco, and Coco has been everything from weight classes to masters divisions for the women. Super active competitor up there in Ontario, trains with Eric and everybody, and does a bunch of Spartan races, a lot of other things as well, but definitely not slowing down and competing more than ever. To go down through the others, I'm going to kind of start skipping a little bit quicker just so we can cover all these classes. Fourth, Annie McCaskill. 5, Paige Elliott. 6, Jess Valee. 7, Taylor Kraus. 8, Grace Van Hoy. 9, Emily, and I don't want to mess up the last name, but I'm going to say Pelote Jetty out of Ontario. And 10th, Amina Alec. So that would be the women's 63 kg. Going to women's 84 and below, and that's 84 kg, would be Ebony Perez, which I've already spoke on. And as we get into these heavier classes for the women, we're going to see, I've already mentioned a lot of these names, so I'm not going to just, repeat myself. Ebony Perez and Helen Wynn right there. 2 California lifters right there at the top of that 84. Haley Gow right behind them in third. And I do want to point out a couple things here for fourth place. Ashley Muncie out of Washington. Ashley is, married to Andy Muncie. Both are tremendous competitors. And she won the Olympia this year at 80 kg. Very strong. So I bring this up because she's fourth in this weight class. But she is one of those people that with a couple more big performances or a couple different lineups, she could very easily find herself breaking into that lower part of the top 10 at almost any point. So that just goes to show how the women's weight class standings are starting to just add more depth with newer competitors and veteran lifters just continuing to progress. So we have people within individual weight classes that are now at a point where, fourth or fifth place in a certain weight class could still be making the top 10, depending on who else is in it. So fifth place, Ashley Sterling. 6th, Daniel Evanson. 7, Alicia Martin. 8, Kimberly Lindner. 9, Sarah Toledo. And 10th, Sarah Saffel out of Ohio. So that would be your women's 84 kilo top 10 list there. And a lot of repeats here, but the women's 84 plus, you run into Sarah Chapello once again, Amy Waddles in second, 3rd, Heather McDowell, 4th, Jaquise Robertson, 5, Hafsa Mason, 6th, Shelby Janes, 7, Anita Vargo, 8th, Rachel McWilliams, 9th, Joanna Hall, and 10th, Jamie Shama. So that would be your women's 84 plus. And that pretty much wraps up all the women's divisions. For now, there's not enough to really go lower and have depth. There's not enough for, masters. So that is everything from the 63 kg women's all the way up to the women's overall. And we should be good to go with those. So moving on to the rest of the men's. Going to start with the lower weight classes. And men's 74 is as low as we're going right here. So, people, I'm going to bring it up, but yeah, Jesse Hagedorn, lighter lifters who are very dominant in the lower classes, they're going to be grouped into this 74 kilo class until bigger participation or more depth pops up. So Sebastian Pacey Smith out of New Brunswick. He was the Maritimes Canadian regional champion this year. Also took second at Stronghold up in Maine, which is a competition that Ronnie Bossy held. So Sebastian Pacey Smith, a lot of great achievements this year, besides being the regional champ. Had, double bodyweight Iron Mind Axel, double bodyweight Andrews Axel, and just seems to be very excited as a competitor. And not only that, definitely, taking it upon himself to host and kind of get more involved on that side of things as well. So Sebastian Pacey Smith, great addition to the sport, and is also bringing a lot of new faces to the sport and introducing it to everybody in that region. So, he's the top ranked guy right now in the 74 kilo class. From there, we have Clint Ziegler out of Pennsylvania, but he lives in New York, Eric, so you better change that. Elmira. But Elmira, New York, Clint Ziegler. But he's listed as Team PA probably because he's got some sort of affiliation to that Jed Johnson and Luke Raymond guy. He's been part of that crew, so maybe Eric just lumped him in with them. But trust me, as somebody from Team Ohio, and Clint not being in Pennsylvania, nobody wants to be on Team Pennsylvania other than maybe Napalm and Luke Raymond. So outside of my Pennsylvania trash talk, Clint Ziegler really didn't have a super active year, but had a very impressive year. Clint's body weight was lower than ever. He still managed to pull off incredible lifts for King Kong. He was the pound-for-pound champion. So we had Tammy McClure on the women's side, who is one of the most impressive lifters in our sport. Clint Ziegler, got that same honor of being the pound-for-pound overall champion with some of the lifts he did. And Clint has also done a lot of different feats, and just, I don't know, it's hard to relay how good Clint Ziegler is at certain things unless you're familiar with his body of work and what he's done. But him being that light of a weight and then still being able to train, stay injury-free enough to come to the platform and, lift as well as he did, I think he was probably right in the top 25. As a 74 kg lifter, right at the top 25 for overall King Kong performance. He's probably right there in the top 25, top 30 for sure, which is like the top 10% at such a light body weight. Clint Ziegler still alive, still doing it, still strong, and doesn't seem to be going anywhere. And I'm going to kind of just scroll down a little bit quicker through the rest here. I'm trying to get through all these weight classes. I don't want to, get too wild. We got a lot of names down here. Third, we have Ben Galper out of California. Ben did not compete in the Pacific Regional Championships. He does do very well on a lot of the thick bar napalm handles. So maybe if the West Coast has a Napalm Nightmare Championship, maybe we could see him compete a little bit there. But not sure what the next competition would look like for him. And but he's right there at the top of this weight class, and anywhere from the 74 to 83, super competitive, super strong, and just got to see when he competes next. Fourth, William Hayashi out of Ontario. Fifth, Michael Rogowski. Sixth, another California lifter, Steve Gaspar. Seventh, Gabriel Bastian Baudet, not sure on the pronunciation. Eighth, Jesse Hagedorn, and that's one of those situations where Jesse Hagedorn is just in a lighter weight class, often winning like the 59 kg class for King Kong. But just, not quite as much competition down there for him, so I think he kind of just has to keep shooting for these heavier lifters and, hanging tight with them until maybe more lighter weight people emerge. I do want to congratulate Jesse on totaling elite for grip sport. Through his total doing grippers, double overhand axle deadlift, and his two-hand Euro pinch. Jesse, hit that elite threshold this year. On top of, winning his weight class in King Kong and everything else for numerous years, he's, competing in other things as well and has other goals that he's been knocking off. Ninth place, Christian White out of New Mexico. So we haven't seen too many New Mexico names pop up, but I do know some lifters in New Mexico, and hopefully that scene will continue to grow. 10th place, Vinny Reveles out of New York, bumping up to the men's 83. Two California lifters here, and both had real good performances at the Pacific Regionals. That's William Reed in first place and Tofu Eboinga in second. Going down, we have Josiah Kerr from Ontario, Steve Nutjens from Alberta, 5th place, Indy Ladhar from Pennsylvania, 6th, Steve Maish, 7th, Alex DeZorzi, 8th, not sure on the pronunciation, I believe it's Case Bazaz out of Ontario, 9th, Chris Ribbich out of Ohio, and 10th, Jacob Hilton out of North Carolina. That would wrap up our men's 83. So moving on to men's 93. I have already mentioned Devin Lee Brown as he's in the men's overall top 10. Second place, though, is one I want to spend a little bit of time on, is Mustache Ninja, or Lucio Batista. And like I said, hopefully I got that right. He is over here on the East Coast. So New York is what I have down for where he's from. So that's somebody else over here that, as more competitions pop up and as they become more involved in the sport, man, he really pushed Jed to his limit at the regionals. And he's had some killer performances, set some records. I think at the Shaw Classic. I'd have to look at some of the... I know he's done 2 or 3 competitions recently, and some of the training footage is just ridiculous. He's putting up great numbers. He had kind of dabbled in some feats, lifting some blobs. And, I think he has kind of like a... I don't want to say American Ninja Warrior, because I don't know if that's like the organization or the actual sport itself. I'm not too familiar with it. But I do know that there's a lot of strong grip athletes, climbers, and people that do that kind of stuff. And I know he's very high level at that, but with the hand size, the hand structure, and the overall strength coming up more and more with the body, Mustache Ninja, somebody to look out for. But yeah, just keep that in mind. That's another person that's really been impressive the last year or two, but specifically this year has really made a big impact. Tim Butler, battling injuries, coming back from, endless setbacks, but Tim's still here. Tim still does it. And yes, New Jersey, one of New Jersey's best, Tim Butler in 3rd place. 4th, Ethan Mercer. Sorry, I have too many names I'm reading here. Ethan Mercer out of Illinois. Ethan is an arm wrestler, and Ethan has burst on the scene this year, started to do competitions, had a really good performance in King Kong. I think he was right there in the top 30 for his first time. It's a great performance. I saw him lifting the inch dumbbell, doing some rows with it the other day. He finally got one. Super strong lifter. And in the 93 kg class, he's displaying strength that you're rarely going to see from a 93 kg lifter. The more this guy lifts, the more he keeps competing. Man, he's another one to watch out for. 5th, Steve Millard, veteran competitor, constantly winning, weight classes or runner-up in weight classes, runner-up in regionals, whatever it is. Steve took 2nd place to Jalen Worley at Dubs Grip Classic for the regional championship. Steve is always either winning his weight class right there for King Kong or, just damn near medaling every year he's done it. Steve's always been in the top for King Kongs, and he's branched out. He's been to the Olympia. He's done a lot of other stuff throughout the past, and he's done record breakers for David Horn's competitions. Steve is just a very thorough lifter who not only takes his own competitive training and competitive performances serious, but he's also making sure that other lifters can perform their best and get their best lifts on the board when he's hosting competitions. So one of the best promoters and hosts we've ever had in the sport as well. 6th, Jeremy Bazile. Sorry, tough to say that name, but Jeremy B out of Ontario. 7th, Nate Phillips here in Ohio. Nate's a solid lifter, been doing a lot, but man, he was right there at the top of this 93 class not too long ago, but with the influx of some new lifters, we see how quickly things can change. So all these people I've mentioned so far in the 93 class, super strong, super tough, and with more event lineups, we're going to really find out who's who and kind of where everybody stands. 8th place, California lifter, Travis Winan. Travis is kind of a taller, lankier lifter with really big hands, great thick bar. Sometimes has struggled on pinch in the past, but it really depends on that event lineup. But yeah, Travis is a very solid lifter, and usually if there's competitions going on in California, he's involved and he's taking part. Ryan Grabard, messing it up. Ryan Grabarczyk, and I've messed that one up before. Out of Saskatchewan, and 10th place Vince Broderick. Vince just hosted the Northeastern Regionals up in Vermont. So yeah, we have competitions in Vermont happening for Grip Sport now, all over the place. So it's just cool to see the growth of the sport and see these names being competitive. But once again, like I mentioned with Steve Millard, now I'm going to mention again with Vince Broderick, hosting and bringing more to the sport than just their own performances. Men's 105, a lot of these are going to be repeat names, but Tanner Merkel, Ben Helms, Eric Roussane, Luke Raymond, Cliff Keener we have not mentioned yet, but Cliff Keener won the Arnold this year, took runner-up at the GSI Nationals, was on the podium for the men's regional in EOGC. Cliff, solid lifter, man. Just ridiculous power. Didn't do King Kong, but it's not going to really change how impressive his year was. So Cliff's a great lifter, strong person I've had to compete against so many times. 6th place Andy Muncie out of Washington. 7th place myself here in Ohio. 8th place coming back to the 105 rankings, Jason Mikowski, Mad Cow out of Virginia. So yeah, Mad Cow actually had an 11th place overall finish in King Kong, very close to breaking the top 10 there. And Jason's another lifter. Most people know him by Mad Cow. I'll just say Mad Cow. But yeah, Jason, Mad Cow. He's another lifter that with the right event lineup can beat anybody. And even with a bad event lineup, he's going to be getting better and improving those lifts as he kind of trains more and just competes more. 9th, Yvonne Shuk out of Illinois. Yvonne took 2nd to Cliff at the Arnold and has not competed since, but you never know when he'll step back out to compete again. I do know that Yvonne also purchased his first inch dumbbell. So congratulations, Yvonne, on having a real dumbbell now instead of playing with those plastic handles and other imaginary things that you've been lifting in the gym. So Yvonne does have an inch dumbbell. It'll be awesome to see what he does with that and how that kind of impacts his training as well. 10th place, Rob McMurrin. No surprise there. And like I always say this with this weight class, when Rob McMurrin is in 10th place at 105, you really know how strong that weight class is, because Rob is ridiculous. I mean, Rob damn near won nationals this year, and he's 10th place in his own weight class. And he's a master's lifter. So yeah, Rob is usually killing it regardless of categories or anything. To round these last, I got a couple more classes, sorry, but to kind of skim through the men's 120 kilo class, we have Jed Johnson, Sal Sabatino. Then I get into names I have not mentioned yet from the overall, and that is Trey Desmarteau out of Quebec, 4th place Zach Stanowitz out of South Carolina. Trey won the Canadian regionals for his region this year. Trey's another one who's done an excellent job of hosting, only getting better with more competitions and more time. Really, I think it's been exciting for him and Eric Roussane to compete against each other, because maybe there's certain competitions where Trey would have an easier time, or maybe there's competitions where Eric in the past would have an easier time, and that's not the case anymore. If these guys are in the same room, they got to be on their best. They have to bring their best, because the other person on an off day can almost beat anybody. So, Trey definitely deserving of that 3rd place spot. And Zach Stanowitz, another lifter that had good performances in King Kong and ran a very solid competition for Greenville Grab once again. He was also the Southeastern Regional champ. Chris Tracy out of Tennessee, ridiculously strong lifter, great performance King Kong, and I want to say he did the Greenville Grab, but I'm not 100% sure. But he definitely did King Kong with Zach and those guys, and that scene has really picked up down in North Carolina, South Carolina, Tennessee. That southeastern region is really stacked with talent. Sixth, Mike Schimmel out of Saskatchewan. Sometimes it's hit or miss with grip events that he's doing because he is a strongman competitor and has other things that he's doing in strength. But man, Mike is stupid strong no matter what he's doing. Man, so yeah, got to give Mike his credit anytime. Seventh place, Hunter Heath. Really good King Kong performance this year and nice Greenville grab performance. He continued to improve. He was in a very tough weight class at the Arnold Classic in the 110s because we had like Marcus Manick and a bunch of foreign lifters that just popped in. And man, wild lineup. But he's been going head to head with some of the best this year, and he's holding his own, and those lifts are improving. Yeah, he really put together a solid King Kong performance and very active in his training. So yeah, we'll see what happens with Hunter Heath as he keeps going. But yeah, with Hunter Heath, Chris Tracy, Zach Stanowitz, all in that southeastern region. Nate Powell's in this next weight class up, I'm going to mention, but that crew is starting to, that region is just starting to emerge with more and more top-notch lifters. So it's a good development and something to keep an eye on. Eighth, Brad Provic. Not the most active year from Brad, but when Brad's focused and when Brad's doing his thing, one of the best in the world, top 10 King Kong performances, won his weight class in King Kong, I think several years. So, it just really depends on what Brad's training or what his competition schedule looks like. And sometimes that might move him a place or two either direction, but he's always in that top 10. Ninth, Max Picola out of Rhode Island. Max, I think, had a shoulder injury or some type of injury that held him back. I know he did go overseas to the Immortal Grip Wars, did all that event, I believe, one-armed, one-handed, and, still didn't do too bad. And I think in training, I saw, pretty heavy axle lift the other day, still doing some heavy dumbbell lifting. Not going to say he's 100%. I have no idea what that injury status is like or what the injury even was. But the dude is training, he's back at it, and, doesn't seem to really be missing out on too much. And as he gets, that kind of rehabbed up or back to full confidence, he's a strong lifter in this, 110 range to the 120 kilo class. 10th, John Machnick out of California. Another competitor that gets overlooked so often. I always kind of rant and rave about it when the name comes up, but we've seen John win his weight class, push people like Ode Haugen, Alexei Tukalov, Hari Talonen, all these international lifters. John has either beat them or pushed them to their limit in numerous formats. So, shout out to John Machnick. Once again, another lifter that's barely in the top 10 for their weight class, but, is really at an elite, competitive level for any format within our sport and has been for years. That's going to round out the 120 kg class. So when we go 120 up, Carl Myerscough first place, Jason Dingy second place, third Blake Taylor, which would be a new addition, fourth place Jalen Worley out of Colorado, fifth place Derek Hudson, sixth place Stephen Mackey out of Texas, seventh place Nate Powell, who I mentioned with that southeastern crew, Tom Bryson, eighth place out of Saskatchewan, ninth place Tristan Hoth out of Saskatchewan, and from Idaho, and 10th place Justin Harmon. That would round out the super heavyweight class there for the 120 plus. But yeah, if anybody feels that they were maybe overlooked or feel that maybe one of the people they trained with was overlooked or whatever things you notice with the rankings, feel free to put it in the comments, reach out, DM, message, email, do whatever you got to do to have a discussion. But the more minds that kind of have input, the more things that are brought into consideration, the more accurate and, better updates can happen with these rankings. And once again, we always mention this, Eric Rusain compiles these rankings. These rankings can be found on the Canada Grip Sport website under the rankings tab. There's also a lot of stuff that Eric keeps on there for strictly Canadian lifters and milestones, benchmarks that they do when they're training or in competition. I shouldn't say training, I'm just saying feats, certain things, milestones that people have lifted. That stuff gets annotated on that site. So if you're a Canadian lifter, really, I just really suggest you get on that website and kind of just, skim through it. Eric puts a lot of work into it. He's maintained that site for a very long time, and he always does a thorough job. So don't be afraid to reach out to him with a question about your ranking status or anything. Eric's very approachable, does a great job of doing these rankings for us, and if there's any critiques to be made, he's the guy to reach out to. He's very receptive of the input and takes a lot of things into consideration. And every now and then when he's doing his thing, there might be a name or two that gets left off or slightly off, or maybe somebody jumped someone and they really shouldn't have. But trust me, it's hard enough for me just to do an episode like this and read through the names. Eric has to go through and really look at who's doing what. He's probably doing double the work I am when he compiles this list. So it is a pretty good task for one person to try to do and be 100% accurate with no mistakes. So if you feel like something is wrong, or you don't even feel like it's wrong, you just want to have a discussion about it or inquire about it, reach out to me, reach out to him. Just like I said, he's the guy that does this, so who better to talk to than the source itself? But yeah, I think more discussion and more communication within the sport, especially as it pertains to rankings, is always a good thing. Lastly, I am going to bring up the men's masters. And we have Jason Dingy at the top there. Rob McMurrin, as I mentioned before, he won the, I think, 105 kilo and under for King Kong Masters. I think Jason Dingy won the 105 and up. Right behind them, I already mentioned Steve Millard. Fourth, we have Al Block. Fifth, Adam Cohen. Sixth, Ron Paulus. 7, Rocky Malphurs. And in 8th place, we have the seven-time World Championship medalist, Ricardo Magni himself. So yeah, not sure what his next competition will be, but just know that records will be falling. That's a joke. 9th place, Scott Persack out of Saskatchewan. Hopefully I said that right. And 10th place, Mark Schiarelli in Ontario. So that would conclude the men's masters for right now. With that, once again, I would like everybody, if you have anything to reach out about, email the Grip Show official at gmail.com. If it's a rankings question, DM, message, Eric, Jed, whoever. Don't bother Jed with it. Eric does the rankings. Hit Eric up. Yeah, if you're in the comments of this video, share your thoughts, or maybe even mention some names that we should be on the lookout for that maybe didn't make the list. Maybe there's people that you know about that we don't know about yet, or they haven't competed a lot, but they're going to be great. Give them a shout out in the comments below, right? This is about our sport getting more recognition, people getting their proper credit, and having a place where their achievements can be appreciated. So this is for everyone to be familiar with these names, help promote these names, and promote our sport. It's kind of all wrapped into one, and everybody benefits from it. So yeah, reach out, subscribe to the channel. I usually don't do the whole like, subscribe, and beg people to do that. We are approaching a pretty big milestone for the show, right at about 1,000 subscribers for the Grip Show now. So if we can clear 1,000 subscribers and do some stuff, I think that might open up the possibility of doing more like live shows, or bringing in some new stuff for the YouTube channel. So just make sure that, with some of you finding out about the shows and the new releases on Instagram in the past, with that account being down, it won't hurt to subscribe on YouTube or find another way to sort of get those updates, just to make sure you're not missing out. But the podcast is still going to be up. The show's still going to be everywhere, Spotify, Apple, all that, and still going to be on YouTube. I appreciate everybody taking the time. I appreciate everybody and their performances, how hard they've been training, how hard they're working. If you're doing the Napalm Nightmare World Championships, best of luck to you to close the year out strong. And for those of you that made all these top 10 lists and, put in the work to achieve these things, congratulations to you guys. You've earned it. And I really, there's not really a show that I enjoy more than probably seeing the evolution of how hard people are working and how much they're improving, and then being able to talk about it and give them their credit, because it's something that didn't really get appreciated that much in the past. So just thankful for everybody that watches the show, thankful for everybody that's in this sport, making it a better sport, making it a stronger sport. And just want to keep these rankings up to date, and climbing to new heights for the new year in 2026. So once again, comment anything you want below, get in the discussion, and share these rankings. Share them in your stories, push them around, give your friends credit, give yourself credit. If there's something I talk about on the show where I'm giving you credit on a lift, clip that, put it on your Instagram, put it in the story. You can clip this show as much as you want, and if something you've done is highlighted and you want to clip it, it's not going to be a weird thing. That's what this show's here for. It's for you guys to get your credit. It's to put people on the map. So yeah, go ahead and start sharing that kind of stuff more, just to get the word out. And like I said, that's to benefit all of us. So that should do it for this episode. I will have a lot more episodes in the works, and appreciate everybody for their hard work in 2025, and best of luck in 2026. Thank you.